Well, hello everyone. I would really like to welcome you to Spinning Straw into Gold session, which is donated to the Life Coach University. So this is a Life Coach University paid forward session to every one of you out there. What is a paid forward session? You might ask yourself for the ones who are here the first time. Well, the Life Coach University has dedicated itself and its teams of mentors and coaches from all around the world to share their wisdom and experiences with you so that you can also take those insights from our pay it forward sessions and pay it forward, pass it on to someone else so that we all have access to someone listening to us, helping us to do the next step in whatever situation we are in. So thank you to the Life Coach University for providing this platform. My name is Jutta Jerlich, and I want to talk to you about failure. These are the Spinning Straw into Gold sessions that you can join once a month. And there has been a couple of sessions already. So the relationship between me and the LCU is growing and lasting already. Very happy to be part of the team of coaches and to be able to um, follow that dream of Deanne, our founder. So my topic is failure. Ooh, failure, doing something wrong, mistakes that happen, and how we can turn them around, analyze them, reflect on them to find the gold in it. I would really like to give you a very brief summary of what we have done together until now. In most of the sessions, we were actually talking about what is failure actually? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to every one of us? And where does it come from that we have this ingrained in our minds in such a deep way that is very, very hard to extinguish that it is something bad? It's my mission to inspire you to see this in a different way, in the most natural way that we should actually see it, because doing something that doesn't work out allows us to learn, right? It's very simple. If you're not attached to the outcome, we can learn from what we do. And that's what we spent time with in the first sessions that you can also get a replay with. We talked about a stage, I would say, that's called reflect. Sorry, not reflect, respect. Respect failure in the sense of, well, knowing what it actually is doing to us, what we mean when we use those words, and what kind of emotions are connected with that, and how other people feel about that as well, so that we understand it's not something that is just happening to us. We are not alone in this quest to be able to learn from what has gone wrong. Respect also means to understand that there is different levels that are affected. It's our brain and also our emotions. So our bodies are actually sensors, machines that tell us what is actually going on. And if something goes wrong, it's usually a big chaos inside us and around us, maybe even, so that it's really hard to figure this out. So that's why today I would like to talk to you about a stage that is called rehearse. Of course, the overall goal of us as humans is that we don't make mistakes. That somehow is yeah, put into our cradle already, which I'm not so sure that I'm actually even having that as a goal as a human being, because it is actually fun to do something wrong. um, Only if you can relate to that in a way that allows you to feel joy, that allows you to feel that doing something in a way that is not correct is also, having some kind of a value. So rehearsing is actually something that you should define for yourself in your everyday life. So how can you rehearse that something goes wrong? And why would you want to do that? Let's come to that first point. Why do you want to rehearse? Well, as I said, when things go wrong, there's usually chaos, right? It's very hard to figure things out. There's emotions that are coming over you as a tsunami wave, and you don't know where you are even anymore. That's the nature of our emotions, and they will always be there in such a situation. So we need to rehearse because it's actually our aim to get out of that chaos situation we're in, right? So we have to capture our emotions in a way, or our energies, to be able to sort out, well, what is the next step? What do we need to do? Do we just need to stop maybe for a minute and figure that out? Depending on the situation, of course. And now you can imagine from a small mistake that maybe actually doesn't even need attention, you can just go on to something that affects you, maybe even affects other people. Um, that's when it really becomes critical that you are able to master or manage this chaos that is there. And to be able to do that, we need to rehearse, because if we don't know what's happening, it's all unsecure, there's only moving parts, we cannot figure it out. You don't want to do that the very first time. That's why fire brigades do fire drills, because they want to acquire that skill that they can act in a concerted way when it's needed. We need to rehearse that. And we can do that in our personal lives as well. We could do a daily routine. What did I do wrong today? Can I smile about it? Can I see the humor in something that has gone wrong in the kitchen, maybe, or in the household? Something that has been broken, um, whatever has gone wrong in the communication between you and other people. Can you see that from a humorous side? Can you even detect it? When did it happen? Can you spend a couple of minutes, or even just 1 minute? A minute can be very long. Can you spend some time every day to identify what has actually gone wrong? And remember, and this is one of my challenges, it's also maybe not going the way you want to if you're not doing things that you're supposed to do. This is what we have discussed already in the respect area, to actually define for ourselves what does it mean for us, what is it we don't want to do, um, what is it we want to achieve, and what can get in our ways. So if you know and have a list, have maybe 1, 2, or 3 points that you want to work upon for yourselves, then you also know what has happened during the day, in the evening, maybe when you are reflecting about that has not gone the way you wanted. And then you can appreciate that. You can Be thankful that it happened and that you recognized it. And you can think about what you can do different tomorrow when it might happen again. That's one really useful exercise that you can do for yourself. And then you can make it a practice to tell someone else about what has gone wrong today. Why do you think that this could be having an impact on how you see something that has gone wrong and how you react to it? Well, we are training ourselves in those situations. And the more situations we had where those typical emotions come over us, the more familiar they feel and the less chaotic it is in such situations. The more we can be in the control of our next steps. The more we can recognize and accept the feelings that come over us and give it a few seconds so that they can be there and also leave you and that situation you're in as well. There's actually a 7-second rule. If you give it 7 seconds so that these emotions are accepted and have their space to happen, you can then think about how you want to react, how you need to react, how you maybe have to react to prevent something worse from happening. This is actually why, for me, slow is the new fast. Why do I say that? Well, life has become so complex and so fast that more and more situations happen that we are not prepared for, that are maybe connected to something going wrong. Sometimes you don't even know if something is going wrong or right because it's so new that you have no idea. So going slower allows emotions to settle. It allows our mind to figure out the next step. And my next step is always to stop. Let's stop, see around, watch what's going on there, assess the situation. Give yourself the time to be able to do that. Why would you not allow yourself and your brilliant minds to work? It's just a few seconds. That's my reasoning behind slow is the new fast. So that's a strategy. That's a way of handling situations that we need to practice. It might feel very, very uncomfortable to you because it's not the usual way that you have been programmed to react or to be. And that feels uncomfortable. It certainly does. But I found a really good way of seeing this feeling of uncomfortableness. It's actually really good if you feel uncomfortable. You know why? Because if you feel uncomfortable, you are doing something in a way that you have not done it before, which means you're learning. And I'm sure you know the definition of insanity. You know the movie 28 Days with Sandra Bullock? That's where there's a scene where she is talking about that. The definition of insanity is to do something again and again, and at the same time accepting or expecting a different outcome. So you're doing the same thing again and again, but you're thinking you're coming to a different result, right? If you're looking at it this way, it just completely makes sense. If you're doing something different than how you've always done it, there might be a different result, right? We cannot keep doing the same thing over and over, thinking that it leads us to a different point. It's just completely impossible to think that way. Still, we do think that way unconsciously. So we have to become aware of these patterns that are working in our minds. So if you do something differently, you're at the edge of your comfort zone, maybe, or you're already in the uncomfortable zone. But that means you're doing something really well. You're trying a new path, you're trying something new, and you're definitely up for a new result. So whenever you feel uncomfortable, be happy about it. Have a small happy dance and enjoy the situation. Be curious about where it will lead you. That has given me a lot of comfort to know that when I'm feeling strange, okay, maybe I'm doing something different this time, and it's okay to feel like that. If you add in the 7-second rule, this feeling might just go away. Sorry. So this is rehearsing, finding ways to put ourselves in situations that may usually lead us to chaos, to uncomfortableness, and to become used to that. Everything needs training. Just like learning how to climb up a tree or learning anything else. We need to give ourselves the time to learn how it works. Now I want to give you a few more ideas about how you can design this rehearsal stage for yourself. What I like to do with other people, with friends maybe, to think about different scenarios. I like to do that with myself as well. So if there is like a goal that I have that I want to reach, and maybe the goal is just to have a day where you feel that you have achieved something, where you feel nice about it because you have done something that you have always wanted to do or that has been on your to-do list for very long. We can think in scenarios. We can say, well, this is a good day, this is a bad day, this is a so-and-so day. What needs to happen for you to put the day in such categories? So I would say this is scenario thinking. And how do we feel about that then? What about saying, there is this thing on my to-do list that I just can't cross off because I'm trying to avoid it, being very creative in avoiding it or in getting stuck in doing something else. And it's just really hard to get over that. Well, just imagine yourself to be at the end of the goal to cross that off the list. See yourself crossing it off from the list. Feel that joy when it's gone, when you have done it. And go through it. And if it doesn't happen the very first time you try that, forgive yourself for not having been able to do that, because it's okay. There's so many things that happen during our daily lives that we cannot foresee, that we cannot plan for. It's a little bit crazy, I think, this need we have for constantly planning everything. I'm a person who actually loves to be spontaneous, to just let the day evolve, to see what my thoughts bring to my attention, what is needed to be done today. And there should be days where there is nothing to be done, where we can just go along with the flow, listen to music, cook food, maybe do something in the garden to have the ingredients for your delicious dish, talk to people, go for a walk. We need to create that space of just letting life happen as well. Not just as well. Actually, I think this is how life used to be before we got into this industrial age where everything has to be efficient and planned and set up, and we constantly have to strive to make things more efficient and make it go faster. And I don't know, it feels so heavy. I don't know if you can feel that now also. Constantly being in this hamster rad, in a, I don't know, it feels like we're slaves to ourselves. We have become slaves to ourselves, to some expectations that society is just putting on us. We need to step out of this. Yes. Just give it some space, that we're not machines to be here to constantly produce something. And I can tell you, when you create that space in your daily calendar, or you just allow it to happen, depending how advanced you are here, the more of creativity and the more of this reflection that leads to learning will come back to you in a very natural way. Because our minds are constantly working. We're having 60,000 thoughts every day. This number really is stuck in my mind, because it makes it so clear to me that it's an amazing task to even figure out those thoughts. That's enough for me, actually, for an entire day to figure out what's going on there. And a lot of those thoughts are negative. The self-talk that we are somehow running on a constant loop here, and we need to get out of that. Just imagine, uh, a machine getting negative input constantly. How is that machine going to produce positive, high quality outputs? Actually, we would turn off that machine, right? We would turn it off. How can we turn off our thoughts? How can we handle those thoughts that are actually constantly in our way for us to be those positive, joyful creatures that we actually are, that allow us to really access all of the potential that we have to work on solutions for challenges that people around us have. We have this innate drive to create positive impact in the world, positive impact for others around us. We want to be useful. It's as simple as that. So we will create small practices, small exercises, give it a couple of minutes every day so that we can rehearse those situations where we feel most vulnerable. That's a question I want to give you today. What are those situations that you feel weak in, vulnerable, that you want to avoid? What are those situations? And how can you create a small little practice exercise that you get used to those situations, that you find ways for yourself on how to react, how to handle those situations when they happen? This is the practice that we need every day so that we can be prepared for when they happen and so that we can handle them the way we want. I'm seeing a comment here coming in saying, I heard that life is a stage, so it makes sense to rehearse. It's very encouraging to rehearse what we can do when things don't go on our ways. Very insightful. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for this comment. There's another one coming in right now. I often think of the words case scenarios. Is this useful? It doesn't feel very good. Well, that's the case with lots of words that have inner meanings for us that maybe create strange annotations in our emotions. I'm very fond of scenarios, so thinking in different ways. Why? Because first of all, it's something that our imagination is really good in doing. We can get into those pictures, images that we have, and then see that as a rehearsal. And how would I feel in this scenario, in this case scenario, if you want to say it that way? How would I feel? Give yourself time to browse through these different situations that you are describing in those scenarios. It is very useful because you're not going to be surprised, because it's not going to be the first time that you're thinking about it. There's another message here. My teenager, 14 years old, wants to ask a question. He says, normally when I'm doing something really hard, I always think, maybe what if that happens or this happens? Then I get all confused because I might get it wrong. Any help we can give him? Yes, sure. Let's get it wrong. Let's go through those different scenarios and see what happens. Just approach this with curiosity. Just think of it as an experiment. You know, maybe we can take a very simple example of learning to ride a bicycle, right? There's so many things it takes, our body needs to do to be able to learn a bicycle, to ride a bicycle, to learn how to ride a bicycle. It's about balancing ourselves. And here it's like, we can't even say, well, you know, the knee needs to do this and our toes needs to do this. We need to have even trust in those parts of our bodies that are carrying out this balancing act that we need to be able to master to drive a bicycle, to ride a bicycle. So if we can see things that we do the first time as an experiment, you can actually say, okay, now if I do A, B, C, D, E, what happens if I do A? What is the consequences um, when I do A? What's the reaction? What happens? How does it look like? How does it feel? So we can really analyze all the details of those different options, those what if question, right? And then we are becoming an expert in whatever it is we are trying to do, because we can explain in a very detailed way. We can explain to others when they are on that learning path. That's actually the definition of being an expert or becoming an expert. If you've done something for 10,000 hours, you are an expert in that thing, right? So 10,000 hours of doing something definitely includes doing those things wrong, because only then you will know the consequences of your actions in very much of a detail. And then you can help someone else and explain it to them in all its, minute steps that are involved and where it takes you to. And maybe you have to adjust a little bit here, you have to feel the sensor of your body in this way so that suddenly you are able to balance your bicycle without falling, right? And this is actually what our schools are supposed to do. They're supposed to give us that space so that we can go into all of those different options that are the outcome of what if that happens. So what do we do if that happens? Can we go through it? And this is coming back to the first comment about life is a stage, right? If we are on stage, we are able to go and play through those different chain of reactions that are happening. And we can say, okay, cut, let's try a different option. Let's do this again. But we are, I don't know, turning ourselves a little bit in that way. Or we are adjusting the bicycle because it might be too small for us. We need a bigger bicycle because our legs need much more space on that bicycle. And the more often you try to do this, give yourself the time to experiment in those what if situations, the more curious or the more curiosity we will put into this, the more curious we will be to try out new things. You might get the idea, well, let me try to ride the bicycle with a water bucket on my head. How difficult will that be? You have to be able to balance that water bucket on your head without the bicycle as well. But there are people who are really good in this because there is a need for that skill. And sometimes there's really crazy things where you're like, I wonder what would happen if I'm climbing on that tree all the way up. Will I be able to get down again? And it's not just us humans, who have this curiosity to try out new stuff. It's also animals. I love my cat when he's like, oh, what is this? Let me see. Can I get inside? Can I climb on top of it? How does it feel to sit on top of it? That's the nature, that pure creativity that we have inside of us. This innovation spirit that has been so misused in the context of corporations and companies. And We can find it in our daily lives. That's the good thing. And that's what this rehearsing is actually able to do for us. It allows us to play. Maybe we can all, remind ourselves that everything that we have ever learned, we have learned by rehearsing it, by trying it out, by just attempting to walk. We have all learned how to walk, and it didn't happen from one day to the next. It didn't happen without falling. And this is this paradox, maybe that becomes obvious to you because you can apply this to anything. We need to be able to be okay with falling before we start something new, because it is going to happen. And if we anticipate, if we know already that this falling is going to happen, we can prepare for that. And we can learn with our scenario technique, with our what if, to find out, well, if you do it this way, or if you do it that way, it's a little bit harder. This is a little bit easier. This one, this option C, is a guaranteed failure. We will fall. And if we don't know how to get up again after falling, can you imagine, we will not want to fall, right? If we don't know what to do after falling, who in the hell will want to fall? Who in the hell will even want to try to do that thing, that ABC, those different options, those different scenarios that we have in mind, if there is a chance that we will fall? No logically thinking person would do that. And that's where our fear comes in. And that's another accelerating and a factor that making everything worse. If we are fearing to fall, the probability of us falling is much higher just because of that fear. So actually humans have become masters in setting ourselves up for falling, for failure. It's very strange. Our minds actually acting very strange. And we have to understand those patterns that are playing out in our minds so that we can capture them. And we can say, oops, yeah, I am again in that loop here. And then we can turn it around. We can stop. We can capture that situation and recognize where we are at, and then decide to do things in a different way, to adapt, to make that small tweak so that it catapults us into the other scenario, into this other what if. Because we already know, it's kind of like we're creating a mind map of different options and where they lead us to. And then we can switch. Oh, okay, I'm here, need to adapt a little bit, then it'll happen like that. Very fine adaptation sometimes. 1 millimeter of change. But it gets you to a different place. Very different. So I hope this is something that you can share with all the teenagers out there, whatever age they are. Give yourself the space to experiment, to be curious, to see what happens if. I just love that. And I think if you have experienced that once with someone, that is giving you that space, then you will develop this confidence that you are able to handle any situation that comes your way. I'm very, very sure that every one of us is able and capable, knowledgeable, smart, anything we need, we have it all in us. We just have to learn to trust it. And here, some of the animals are way ahead of us because they know that they are able to jump. Maybe a horse, a small baby horse doesn't need to be reminded that it is a baby horse and that it has all these abilities and that it can jump across fences. Sometimes we are also just thinking too much. We are making everything really complicated. There's always two ways, of course, before you get into a situation. And I just had a mentoring session with Emmanuel, who is thinking about getting into a new career path. And for that, he needs to learn. He needs to learn new topics. And how does he do that? How does he keep up the motivation? Well, it's very important for you to find out what is that inner core of you saying. Are you the kind of person who just wants to practically try out something without knowing what might happen, so learning by doing? Or are you more the person who wants to know and talk to someone else who already knows the 10 different variations of what if for that situation that you are curious to try out? And maybe you are a combination of that. Maybe you want to try this new thing out together with others. You are not so fond of doing that alone. And please be aware that when you are asking yourself those questions, that none of the answers are good or bad. It's just the way we are. We are different in how we approach learning, or how we want to learn, how we are most comfortable to learn, how we maybe learn in a certain way. And if you don't know to answer these questions for yourself, go and ask the people who have been around you, your parents, your grandma, people who love you without any condition applied. They will be able to know answers that you might not be able to answer yourself, because they have seen you, they have been around you for years and years, and they can point you in those directions. They can tell you stories about what has happened and how you reacted to that and how it made you feel. And it helps us to remember those incidences when those stories were created. And even if we don't remember them, they will become part of our memory by talking about those memories. I actually think that we are here on earth to get to know ourselves, our whole life, and to learn new stuff every day. That's actually what gets me up every morning. What new thing can we learn? And I want to tell you a story that was playing out on my Monday that I really liked. It made my day so valuable, so full, and so exciting. I was outside and I was looking at some of my plants, and there was my neighbor coming along, and I asked her, "Do you know actually what this plant is?" And she said, yeah, this is a so-called Mutterkraut. And I thought it's just something that grows here with no actual importance to it, which of course is a very wrong attitude to approach a garden. But then I went and looked it up in my books. What is that small little plant actually? And what can it do? And I found out that it can be used against fever. It is something that can help us prevent headaches, migraines from happening. And that's in my garden. Wow, how wonderful. And that's a big, big reminder for us to know that there is so much around us that is useful, that is there for a reason. And we need to be curious about it, curious to learn about all this abundance and useful things around us that we are given by nature for free. Yeah. And you can apply that to anything. Things can change from one moment to the next, right? We're talking to a person and we have gained some new knowledge that we didn't know we have. So remember, to remind yourself in different ways that there's so many good things out there. And by rehearsing, by finding ways of addressing our most valuable and most vulnerable points, that we can practice for ourselves to handle those situations better the next time they come around. And it is 100% sure that they will come around. So with this, I would like to thank the Life Course University again for providing this wonderful platform to reach you, so many of you, anywhere you are. Please sign up for the newsletter so that you can get access to recorded sessions as well. And don't forget to pay it forward. Share the insights that you have learned with someone else. Help them to understand the what if situations and to find that courage. Maybe walk with them when they do something the very first time. And send us your stories. Send it in and share those stories with us so that we can again share this with others. This is a huge paid forward movement that we have started to roll out, and we would like it to reach millions, millions more, so that we can all together create a positive, creative, joyful life, this life that we are on as a stage together, enjoying all the moments of learning that we are able to have every day. I'm very thankful for being able to be here on this planet and to be able to learn. I just love learning. And doing things wrong is part of that journey. Thank you very much for coming. Join me again next month. I'm gonna look maybe into a different timing so that people from different parts of the world can join in. It's always at the last Wednesday of the month. So enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for your time and see you again next time. Take care of you. Bye.